Welcome back, everyone. POW Ponder on Weather here. We've got a dangerous setup taking place over the next couple of days. So let's really delve into the details and start off with the overall surface map this morning. First off, we've got more snow flying this morning in portions of the Dakotas. Back into Minnesota again, I guess 20 inches wasn't enough in Apple Valley the other day. But more snow is flying in the mountain regions of California. Mammoth Lakes has already escalated over 600 feet for the season. The all-time record, folks, is 668. That's not going to be that far off because there's plenty more snow on the table for them. But look at the snow flying this morning in portions in and around the Flagstaff area. That is the cold sector. Out ahead of it, there's the warm sector. We've got a powerful low-level jet setting up across portions of New Mexico back into West Texas. Out ahead of it, man, you got a soupy air mass. In fact, things have really kind of escalated this morning in and around the Dallas-Fort Worth area with a widespread severe weather event, and could have some bigger hail that could unfold in that region as this moves across and intensifies through the Arklatex this morning with a severe threat, and even a stronger severe threat as we go into tomorrow time frame. But for today, we still have that severe thunderstorm watch in and around the Dallas-Fort Worth area between now and noontime. Some of these are producing some small hail right now, but as we get deeper into mid-morning time frame, some of those could be some large hail producing thunderstorms. They do actually have a hatched risk in place for some of these areas as these will continue to kind of intensify right along this low-level jet. There was a warm front that surged yesterday. The humidity was crazy low, like 10%. Now the dew points are in the mid 60s. It's been a rapid change, and that's the atmosphere of what we're dealing with. So as this continues to move off past the noon time frame out of the Dallas-Fort Worth area, wow, we're looking for that hatched risk that does include east of the I-35 corridor. That's that potential 2-inch plus hail variety that extends through the Arklatex. So things could get really bumpy later on this morning into the afternoon time frame, and also some have some spin to it as well. So I don't think you're going to have a tornado set up in the Dallas, but I do feel you could be looking at some isolated tornadoes once you extend into portions of the Arklatex, getting the northern portions of Mississippi, back into portions of Tennessee here later on in this afternoon, and some very high winds as well. Some of these could be on the 60, possibly 70 mile per hour range as these extend and push off to the east. So let's stop the clock here and take a look at the overall setup by the noon time frame. Like I mentioned this morning, they're already getting some active weather down here into portions of North Texas. That just extends out of that region by the noon time frame, heading up into southeastern Oklahoma, back into portions of the Little Rock area. There's the snow flying out west, back into Flagstaff, in and around the Four Corners regions. And there's that snowstorm that's starting to wind down and pushing off into portions of Wisconsin by then, and then heading up into portions of upstate New York by the noon time frame. But as we get into 6 o'clock, that energy just really escalates, and this whole area could get pounded with very heavy rain, if not some stronger thunderstorms. So these are the storms that could be packing those 60, possibly even some 70 mile per hour wind gusts along this edge here. So this is the high alert area as we get deeper into the afternoon. Portions of northern portions of Mississippi, back into Georgia, Alabama here, and then especially into Tennessee, into Kentucky. That's kind of the favorite areas to seeing those high impact storms later on this afternoon, and the very heavy rainfall. And that's not just today. It really gets intensified as we head into tomorrow. So if you are new to the channel and like detailed weather breakdowns, hit the subscribe button and you're in. You get all my daily content on this channel. And if you're in the market for a weather station, I highly recommend the Tempest Weatherflow weather station. It's the one I've currently have myself. I've had it for about 3 years. It's pretty cool. It does a little bit of everything. The coolest part about it is it only takes 10 minutes to install, and it's all solar, and they have this really convenient app. So if you'd like to get one of these, they do have a 10% discount code and free shipping. You can use my link below, and I'll have the description below so you can actually click on it and possibly order one for yourself. So let's take a look at the setup for tomorrow, because it really gets serious, folks. In fact, we've got an upgrade to a moderate risk for severe weather. That's a level 4, guys. This is probably the biggest risk of the season so far we've seen in this area. So this is the zone that takes place, I think, as we get into this system is really slowed down, and that's why this threat has not only shifted further west, but it's also expanded. So this looks to be kind of a longer duration severe weather setup, if not an outbreak, heading into tomorrow. So we've got all three modes on the table. I think initiation really starts in around the Abilene area, say probably around, the 11 o'clock, 2 o'clock time frame, but really starts cranking and heading to, eastbound, getting into the I-35 corridor, heading into eastern portions of east of I-35 corridor, I think, where they really start getting pounded with all three modes of severe storms. So back into Dallas-Fort Worth, into Tyler, into the Shreveport area, back into the Texarkana area, into the Hot Springs area. That is your most favored zone, but this is a huge risk, guys. In fact, let's break down this risk. So this is a hatched risk, and there's parts of the Dallas-Fort Worth area that have a hatched risk today. So basically what a hatched risk means is you have a greater probability of seeing some of those hailstorms stones grow into possibly 2 inches in diameter or larger. This has the capability. You've got extreme updrafts in this type of situation. You could easily lift those cloud tops 65,000 feet up in the atmosphere. That produces the larger hailstones, the elevated updrafts. Keep those hailstones in the atmosphere for an extended period of time. They grow, and then it's too much, and they finally fall to the surface. And that could be in the form of golf ball, tennis ball, maybe even some baseball size hail. Can't be ruled out in some of these areas. So this hatched risk extends all the way into Fort Worth, into the Wichita Falls area, back into Waco. It does include all of Dallas-Fort Worth, back into the Northeast Texas, and into the Longview area. But even further south, don't let your guard down for some larger hail too, that as this extends all the way into the Houston Metroplex, back into Austin. And like I mentioned, I think it originates as far westbound as into the Abilene area, heading into tomorrow afternoon. But this becomes an overnight threat back into East Texas, and especially into the Arklatex, as we get into the overnight wee hours of the morning. So, and this is a wind event too. So this is some serious wind event that's really going to be packing those 65, 75, maybe upwards to 80 miles an hour. You saw some of that stuff in the Oklahoma area. This is the type of variety stuff you're going to get with some of those 80-mile-per-hour wind gusts. Is maybe not out of the question, especially as you go east of the I-35 corridor, back into East Texas, into the overnight. I can't stress that enough. This is a nocturnal threat. It won't be in East Texas until probably 10, 11 o'clock at night. So this is a nighttime threat, especially as you go into East Texas, getting into the Arklatex, back into Arkansas, where we got all three modes on the table. And there's your tornado risk. It's pretty elevated as well. In fact, you've got a huge area of yellow. That's that 10%. And then the red is the 15% probability of possibly seeing not only a tornado, but has the possibility of seeing a strong tornado within this region. So in some of these areas back into East Texas, and especially into Arkansas, some of those have indications where some of these could be long track tornadoes. So this is definitely a dangerous event. It's something I'm going to be on live for with extended coverage tomorrow from this event. Looking at the time frame right now, looks like I'm coming on board about maybe 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and it really gets activated as we get deeper into the afternoon into the overnight hours. It's going to be very, very busy, I can say that. So this is about 2 o'clock. This is the HRRR guidance from the latest guidance, where you're starting to get isolated, discrete supercells starting to originate, pop up in anywhere around the Abilene area. These are the ones that could be big time hail producers. Some isolated tornadic spin-ups, more the isolated type varieties starting to come fruition into the afternoon hours, where the snow's flying on the northwest side of this, back into New Mexico and back into portions but getting into Colorado by then. So by the 6 o'clock time frame, that's when things really get escalated and start really elongating about this main line. This is the line that could be a big time wind producer, big time hail producer, and starting to spin up some tornadoes as well within this region. This is about 6 o'clock. This should be basically west of the I-35 corridor by then. Much of Oklahoma and parts of Arkansas is getting into the action, and that moves across the Metroplex during that, a 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 o'clock time frame, and then shifts into East Texas by the time we get into your 11 o'clock time frame. That's when things really start to get bumpy for East Texas, start getting into the picture of portions of Louisiana, but especially into Arkansas. This is when we could be looking at some of those strong tornado potential. So definitely be on high alert. Have a way to get all your watches and warnings. Like I mentioned, I'll be on live doing extended coverage on this event. And then you're going to have a backside system too. We got a pretty significant strong cold front, and this has got a very cold core. So it's going to drop a quick burst of snow on the backside in the Texas Panhandle, getting into Oklahoma, and the extreme regions of the Red River could all end as very just kind of a wet snow before this thing rapidly clears out into the overnight hours. And by the 4 o'clock time frame, it really starts to ramp up. So you get this backside hit back again into the Oklahoma area, into the Oklahoma City area. Then heavy snow starts to break out on the northwest side, getting into northern portions of Oklahoma, but especially heading into Kansas by then. That extends into Iowa as this nasty squall line hits portions of Mississippi. That's 4 o'clock in the morning, guys. That's definitely an overnight threat in the wee hours of the morning. So just have a way to get all your watches and warnings into the overnight hours. And it's going to be one of those things to sleep with one eye open, because these things are going to be flying. Unfortunately, you're going to have little warning with these systems, as these things are going to be coming in fast and furious. And you got to stay high alert, because it's a high impact event. It's going to be a bumpy ride for the next 36 hours. I can promise you that. It's a big event. It's very rare to see 2 back-to-back hatch days like this. And just more significant events. I mean, this is springtime, and it's starting off with a vengeance, because all this ends and goes into Friday time frame as well. So it's a multi-day event. It's starting off today, goes into tomorrow, and extends into the southeast by the time we head into Friday. So these are going to be locked and loaded over portions of Alabama, back into the Georgia area, back into the Carolinas area. Maybe not as intense of what you've seen coming out of the Arklatek region, but still, these could be escalated and upgraded to an enhanced by the time we get into this, further into fruition. But yeah, these areas are going to be escalated as well, back into the Nashville area, picking up back into the Kentucky area. This is a 3-day event, guys. You got a lot of rain on the table. Some of these areas through the Arklatex, through Tennessee, through portions of Kentucky, easily 4 to 8 inches of rainfall. This is a flash flooding threat too. Some of these areas could pick up 10, maybe 12 inches of rainfall within this area. We're on these isolated supercells that just kind of train over the same areas. So not only is this a severe threat, it's a flash flooding threat too. So this is what makes this as a multifaceted, dangerous setup. No 2 ways to look at it. This should be taken very seriously and be on high alert as things start to get really bumpy, starting now and extending all the way into that Friday time frame. But there's also a snow aspect of it too. So again, on the northwest side, you're going to have snow starting to crank out on the northwest side of this upper level low, back into the Texas Panhandle. Extreme portions of the Red River could end with some very wet snowflakes, back into Oklahoma, getting into Kansas here, into portions of Missouri. This is the snowfall on the high resolution guidance over the next 48 hours. So this snowstorm is going to be starting to wind down. This is the snow that's going to be leaving with this snow over the next 48 hours. And this is the new snow that's coming to fruition with that upper level low. So, but it really starts to get cranking as we get into Friday afternoon, Friday night time frame. And I think that's when areas back into Iowa, back into portions of Chicago is going to be really surprised with this system, with very heavy snow breaking out of that region into portions of Wisconsin. That heads into Michigan there. And all this extends and headed into portions of the mid-Atlantic and heading into the upstate New York as that gets into your, late Friday, heading into Saturday time frame, as the snow will be cranking by then in upstate New York, getting into Vermont and New Hampshire, portions of Massachusetts here, especially into Maine as we head into your, Saturday time frame. But going forward, we got big changes. We've been talking about this stratospheric warming event for a while. It took place on the 16th. We're finally starting to see indications where it's going to be filtering southbound. And look at the EPO, guys. I mean, this is a massive plunge. I mean, look how escalated it is from basically a positive 5 deviation all the way to a negative 5. You go off the chart to off the chart. So yes, Cold air is coming in the month of March. So let's really break this thing down for you. The PNA has been negative. There's no question. It's been extremely cold. It's been well below average for actually a good part of winter out here off the west and in the Intermountain West and much of the West Coast. It's going to continue. We see by the 7th, the ridge tries to come back, which has been, the same story, over and over and over again. Every single week, we've been seeing this ridge come back. But finally, things are changing. So by the time we head into the 10th of the month, cold air is really going to start taking over the pattern. We can say actually goodbye to the southeast ridge by then. And and hello to much colder conditions. So we won't be talking about severe weather by then. We'll be talking about cold weather, as it's going to be feeling more like December versus going to feel like more like, March. And a lot of these areas into the Nevada, back into the Four Corners regions. I mean, those are, this is an ensembles, guy. That's some very cold stuff. That's 20 to 25. It's hard pressed to even see that and on an ensemble guidance. I mean, you can almost say this could be one of your coldest Marches on record going into, for the entire month back in Nevada, places into Utah. Because this looks to extend even deeper into March. So, but this cold air with the EPO, not only the west gets cold, but eventually further south in the east, because that indicates not only the central and eastern 2/3 will finally get in the action of that colder temperature. So it's not going to feel like spring. It's going to feel more like winter. It's on the early part of winter into December than it is in March, right? So, and the Climate Prediction Center is already kind of hinting at that. It's hinting that you got well below average temperatures, not only for the north and the northwest, but also for the central and south as well. So by the time we head into that 10th and 14th time frame, those well below average temperature anomalies extend all the way into Texas, all the way into a good chunk of the southeast, good chunk of, all the way into the Tennessee Valley, through the Mid-Atlantic, through the Ohio Valley as well. Gets into the action of those, well below average temperatures or March standards. All right. So I appreciate you guys watching. Definitely hit the subscribe button and stay tuned for the latest update where I protect you before and after the storm.